Can you tell us about anything about any of the new characters in the series?
Is this going online? Do you all raise your hands and promise not to put any of this online? Okay, cool. Okay, well, let's tell you one new character. Okay, Komodo. One of the new characters is called Komodo. And Komodo is dropped off the initiative, though we don't see it on frame. We might see it later in a flashback, by Kurt Connors. So Kurt Connors drops off this new lizard girl and says, take her, initiative. Who is she? What's her connection to Kurt Connors? I don't know. But she's a lizard girl. And she has the ability to change back into normal, but she doesn't. She's very mean about it, too. But she's a hoot. She loves being in the initiative. Most people don't. But there you go. I've told you one secret character. Komodo, don't put it online. Don't put this online. Okay.
Okay, how about let's talk about She-Hulk. What did you, when you started doing She-Hulk, first of all, what did you think of the previous She-Hulk series? Not just this one that stands out, and more importantly, the one that Byrne did.
Love them, love them, love them. Everyone's got their favorite characters, and my top 5 for the longest time have been your She-Hulk, your Doctor Doom, your Moon Knight thing, and Spider-Man. Those are always been my 5 for Marvel. And the thing for me with She-Hulk it was a little bit of when Roger Stern put her on the Avengers,
right?
Because you have the Stanley creature, and she's really just a stopgap so that Marvel keeps a copyright on She-Hulk. It's really there just as a blocker. Don't you dare create She-Hulk anyone else. So it's this carbon copy Hulk in a dress. And then David Anthony Kraft writes her for 24 issues. And it's more of a soap opera melodrama with the same kind of schism of, oh no, why doesn't he love me as She-Hulk? Why doesn't he love me as Jen Walters? Oh no. And why doesn't my dad love me at all? So that was She-Hulk 1 through 25. And she was mean and bitter, and she really was a female Hulk. And then Roger Stern puts her on the Avengers, and suddenly she's funny. But funny in a mean way, she's beating up Hawkeye, and she was this free character. If she saw Star Fox and thought Star Fox was hot, the next day she's walking out of Star Fox's room wearing a towel. What? So it was she was a very liberated, strong female character. And then when Byrne put her into the Fantastic Four, he went one step further and made her hot. So suddenly she became this idealized woman. And she became this person who was this, what Bruce Banner was to Rage. Oh, I'm Bruce Banner, I'm a 98-pound weakling, and people push me down and steal my lunch money. But then I get mad, and I turn into the Hulk. I had a bad childhood. Look at me, I'm the Hulk. And then you had She-Hulk, who was this wallflower, who suddenly becomes this party girl. Then it becomes an expression of her freedom, an expression of her inner strength and her inner beauty. And her sexuality. And it became this very exciting character with the Fantastic Four. And then John Byrne took it up another notch in the solo series, where, boy, she was just nonstop funny. It was a fun escapist book that really picked at the obscure corners of the Marvel Universe, pointed at them and laughed as it pulled down their pants. US 1, that book sucked. Let's make fun of it. So you had all these pieces, and one of the things that when the Byrne book started off, the solo book, there was the promise that she was going to be a lawyer. It was in the first few issues that here's She-Hulk, and she lives in the Marvel Universe, and she's going to deal about law. And that all went away as she started hanging out with Razorback in outer space, and started doing these wacky adventures with the Living Eraser. But that nugget was there. And as a fan, I always wanted to see that. And when you'd see, there were certain things with Marvel law that you would see in early Daredevils. When Namor would come out of the ocean and go, I want to sue the surface world.
Right.
And Daredevil would go, okay, here we go. Namor v. Surface World. Take this to court. And then suddenly Daredevil stopped being about any semblance of that and became about fighting ninjas. That's Daredevil now. You're Daredevil, you have to fight ninjas.
And Frankie got rid of his being a lawyer
for a while, right. That was Daredevil, you fight ninjas, you're near Venetian blinds, and your girlfriends always die. And that's what the book's about. So suddenly there was no books out there about this really neat nugget. And I kept trying to pitch it at Marvel in my early days when I was still the Ren and Stimpy guy. And, it's this guy with his proposal, thank you very much. So I already had all these ideas and all these nuggets ready, and after we did Arkham, I came back to Marvel, and people took me seriously. And they said, what do you want to do? And I said, She-Hulk. Let me do She-Hulk. And right out of the box, we had all this stuff where, can a ghost be a witness at his own trial? And that was just so much fun. A guy taking the stand going, yes, I was murdered, and he killed me. And how do you fight that in court? And they actually do. They actually fight the fact that the ghost goes, yeah, he killed me. Because the ghost ends up lying.
Should there ever be a crossover between She-Hulk and Supernatural Law?
I would love to do that. I would love to do a crossover with Supernatural Law. I'd love to do a crossover with Manhunter over at DC. There's so many fun things you can do. Actually, I had all these things, and I'd never read Supernatural Law. And I was over in Cosmic Comics, and I bump into Scott Lobdell and Jim Salicrup. And they're like, hey, what's going on with you? Oh, I'm doing this new book for Marvel. I'm doing She-Hulk. What are you doing? I'm doing Alpha Flight. We're going to launch at the same time. That's great. What's your book about? It's about this. And suddenly Salicrup leans over and goes, that's Supernatural Law. And I'm like, no, we're going to do this. Yeah, there's a book out. It's called Supernatural Law. But we're doing it like this? Yeah. So I made a point of never reading them because I didn't want to steal anything. And we kind of had it whole cloth fair.
Well, you're doing a different genre anyway. They're supernatural, you're superheroes.
We're superhero. So we also get to do stuff like, I think the best all-around issue we ever did was when She-Hulk helped Spider-Man sue the Daily Bugle for libel. That was really fun. And when we did the thing with Hercules suing the a supervillain, the Constrictor, suing Hercules for damages. It was pretty fun too. So there's all these neat cases and ideas where we, how do you legislate the Marvel Universe? And also finding some clever twist to it. And so that's pretty much the idea behind She-Hulk.
Two things I want to ask you about She-Hulk is the differences between your series and the Byrne series. One is that Byrne made this big point, we're getting rid of Jennifer Walters. She-Hulk loves being She-Hulk, she doesn't want to go back to being the mousy lawyer. You've got them both identities. Why is that? What's the advantage?
To me, it all came down to it's my preferences as someone who wants to write the character, where there are certain characters that God bless them, and you can tell from all the projects I pick or all the projects I've drawn to, they're all Byrne. You look at everything I'm doing, Spider-Man, Human Torch, that's Marvel Team Up. Great Lake Thing, Great Lake Avengers, She-Hulk. I'm a Byrne freak. I was one of the Faithful 50 growing up, and which was like Byrne sales, no matter which comic book he went to, would jump up by 50,000 in circulation because he had a loyal audience, and I was one of those guys.
Me too.
So I love all of the Byrne stuff. The only two blemishes for me for the runs of Byrne stuff really were Big Bertha and She-Hulk. Because I thought on some level, these are horrible role models for girls, especially when it comes down to body image. Because here you have this supermodel who turns into the super fat character, and then she turns back into a supermodel. And that's just bulimia written all over. There's no good way to look at that, where everyone's making fun of the big fat character who can become the beautiful supermodel. So we kind of made fun of that and try to find the positive element in that in GLA. And that's just me getting on my soapbox. And with She-Hulk, here's this person that has a chance to escape into a fantasy life. It's like, to me, it would be the same thing if Billy Batson said, Shazam, and why should I ever say it again? Why should I go back to being Billy Batson? And